Hey everybody, this is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. In today's episode, I am thrilled to have with me a very special guest, Margie Venturi, Vice President and Sales Leader of our Haddonfield and Vineland offices. And in today's episode, we'll be diving into the crucial topic of keeping calm and carrying on. As we all know, the real estate industry today is constantly evolving, and with the changes ahead come both challenges and opportunities. Margie and I will be discussing how to maintain your composure and focus on continuous improvement amidst these changes. So whether you're a seasoned realtor or just starting in the business, Margie's here to discuss valuable insights and practical advice to help you navigate the ever-shifting landscape of the real estate world. So sit back, relax, and let's keep calm and carry on with Margie Venturi, and we'll pick it up on the other side. Margie Venturi joins me on the podcast, fearless leader of our Haddonfield and Vineland offices. Margie, so glad we could finally get together and make this happen. How are things your way in New Jersey?
Hey, Jason. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Definitely, I'm going to fasten my seatbelt because I've never done a podcast first, but, really excited, and things are great in Jersey. We're getting used to all of these upcoming changes and, a little bit nerve-wracking, but we're agents, so I think we're kind of used to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to, I don't know. Well, you kind of spoiled the surprise here because I was going to start with, I don't know if you've heard this, Margie, but apparently there are some big changes heading our way in the industry. I don't know if you've heard about them, but of course you have. So changes are indeed coming. And we all know by now what's on the horizon in the coming months in real estate. And you and I are here today to tell the agents to keep calm and carry on. So we may not be able to control the future or the changes it inevitably brings, but you can control the controllables, right? And that's part of what we're going to talk about today, you and I. So Margie, just like so much in life, it all starts with your mindset. And particularly your mindset as things may be changing around you. And that may be in your life, that may be in your workspace. Obviously, there's a lot going on with our industry right now. So my question to you is, to start, why is it so important to be aware of our mindset during this time of evolution in our industry? And what are some tips you can give us to focus on right now?
So it is absolutely uncharted territory, scary times, and your mind can absolutely take over. And sometimes what we create in our minds is much more scarier than actually what we're dealing with. We're having a monumental shift in our industry, clearly. A lot of the agents that are in the industry now weren't around for large changes. I started when we still had dual agency. I'm a New Jersey licensed agent only. And I remember my broker telling me these stories, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. I remember getting ready for work, some months back, and Good Morning America broke this big NAR lawsuit. And, guess what? You don't have to pay a commission. And I almost dropped my coffee cup, and my husband and even the dog looked at me like, uh-oh, but I think really taking control right away. David Rickel, he runs our New Jersey, president of our New Jersey offices that all of the sales managers in New Jersey answer to. And, he had a meeting with us right away. And he really, I think, really clearly broke down just the psychology of it all, where you're talking about mindset and just wrapping around, hey, what the heck just happened? And he broke it down into four different phases. And the first one, he said, was forming, right? So something new just occurred. We're not used to it. Change just happened. What the heck? And we're all just kind of like looking at each other like, this is our career. This is how we pay our electric bill. Now everything we knew and everything we practice is going to change up. So wrapping our heads around it. Then there's storming. Okay, how can this be done? What does this even look like? And we're still maybe kind of a little sick to our stomach, but what could this model look like, right? Then it's norming. And that's the third part to this, he said. And he said, embrace the change. Okay, you know what, Jason, maybe we can do this. We're sitting in the office, we're having coffee, or we're on this podcast. Maybe we can do this. We're going to have to list buyers now. We're going to have to list buyers just like we list sellers. So is that the image in our mind, like this parallel thought process? And with that, it's, getting our agents trained up, right? That's the norming, getting used to the new norm, getting used to our new scripts. And then once we have that, it's performing. Okay, now we know the plan. Now we know what this looks like, or being fluid because we don't know what it all looks like yet. And then performing and just really taking what we practiced and running with it. So getting that mindset, kind of into that psychology of those 4 phases, I think is really good groundwork. So we don't go off roads into, those crazy places in our minds that we can go to that as realtors usually happen in the middle of the night. Like, oh my God, did they send the mortgage commitment over? Did I order that termite? So having a game plan and just understanding that, we'll do this together. This isn't any one agent, one company. This is an industry change. And when we all swim together, we'll get to where we need to be.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned, I feel like so many realtors right now are in the 5 stages of grief. You mentioned the 4
Yes.
different, tiers there. And I love what you said there about, we have to list buyers. I was on I had the opportunity to be on a panel event at my realtor association yesterday. And I talked about the buyer presentation and how important that's going to be moving forward. And you have to have a killer buyer presentation because that's what it's going to call for nowadays. And that's where one of the big changes I think that we're going to face is on the buying side and performing for buyers. And you might be in competition with other agents for those buyers. And so you have to be prepared for that. So for all of the hand wringing and anxiety out there and the unknowns I hear agents obsessing about right now, it's the known fundamentals of real estate that we already know about that we should be focusing on today. And so, Margie, what action steps could we take today as agents to ensure that we give ourselves the best chance to succeed as we get used to a new way of doing things? What can we do today to better ourselves for the changes coming?
I think first, really take assessment of where we are mentally, right? So, there's fight or flight. Are we going to move ahead with this, feel the fear, and do it anyway? We're all on social media. Social media, if you're in the real estate industry, it's blowing up with all different kinds of memes and this and that, and everyone's comments, and some are flight. I've been doing it this way for 100 years, and I'm just not ready for this change. I'm sending my license back. And maybe that is a few people's choices, But then there's also, with fight or flight, there's also freeze and fawn. Some people just freeze in place. I'm going to ignore it and make believe that big piece of information is just going to go away, and I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And then there's fawn, which I feel that concept in our industry might mean, all right, I'm going to show up for this class, but I'm doing it because my sales leader says I should, and I'm not really getting it. And, and it's a little bit of a frazzlement. So first, let's take a true assessment of where you are. And any of those concepts are fine. Just figure out where you're at and then take the appropriate steps. So once you know that, then you get into, like I was saying earlier, the norming part. Okay, now what are those action steps? What can we do? And I would say first, really show up for your sales meetings. Show up for the trainings. Berkshire Hathaway has so much to offer. We are so fortunate. I feel agents are so fortunate that they are able to tap into not only what their office, wherever they're at, their office, they can listen to podcasts like that, like this, right? So you're in PA, I'm in Jersey, Delaware can chime in with something. There's strength in numbers, and the fact that we have an education department that you can so easily just log in, listen to a class, and then go into your office, have coffee with another agent, get into those groups. There's strength in that. The information is right in front of you and it's laid out for you. We just came off a 4-week training just for this to have you ready. So educating yourself, but also don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel because it's already been done for you. And the leadership in our company has put all of this together for you in palatable pieces that you can understand. Bill Alexander, who runs our Mount Laurel office, is going around to all of our New Jersey offices to, either come in on a sales meeting or do his own presentation, lunch and learn, breakfast and learn, whatever you want to do. And he'll explain the buyer agency agreement in real terms. So when somebody looks at this 5-page document and they're like, what the heck? He's breaking it down for you. I think so often we think, oh my gosh, we go right to what is this going to look like when I'm sitting down with a buyer? They're looking at the end result and they're not looking at, let's focus on today and those activities that are going to get us to the end result. So in our mind, we might be envisioning, I'm sitting with this buyer and they're looking at me like I have 3 heads and I'm stumbling over my words and they're just giving me a hard no. Instead, let's look at, what am I doing today? Well, on Monday, I just went to this training, right, in our micro region. Tuesday, I had a sales meeting and my sales leader, we discussed this again, and maybe we did some scripting and maybe we did some role playing. And just for today, look at your steps and then be proud of yourself. It's 1% better every day. That's going to get us to that full cup. And we'll be successful when this happens, late summer.
You had mentioned showing up. That's the first thing, right? I think of 2 things: show up and be proactive. Because
Absolutely.
right now it calls for it in our job. So, you had mentioned showing up to sales meetings. I can't stress how vital that is because you're rolling out the latest information that you're hearing, from the company, from these, national settlements. Like, we're getting drips and drabs of new information every day that agents need to be aware of. Okay, we're going to do this. Like for example, like VA funding. Like there's some stuff that came out about VA and buyer commissions now, right? Or how are Fannie and Freddie going to handle this? How are we going to approach not being able to put commissions on the MLS? All these things that go into this new territory that we're drifting into. You need to be aware and you need to show up. For example, last week I was out at our PAR meetings in Harrisburg. And one of the things that they talk about are changes that are coming to the agreement of sale. And there's a feedback panel. There's a committee involved. You can hear what they're talking about. You can see what changes they're proposing and why they're proposing them. And so get involved and be a part of the process because that's going to be part of our job in order for us to hit the ground running once, we're ready to go with this. Do you agree with that, Margie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's empowerment. When you take action, that's empowerment. And just being involved, even just to listen, just listen, 1% better every day really adds up in the end. And the other thing is, again, and maybe just put this on a sticky somewhere or on your phone. People are thinking, well, what if I can't do this? Because really that's the underlying thing, right? What if I can't do this? What if I listen to all this and I can't do it? And I would say every time you have that thought, what if it all works out? What if it all works out? Times do we think of our fears, right? And then those things never happened.
We often get into a space where we work ourselves up into a lather over something that really we shouldn't be doing. And I think that we talk about mindset and just keeping calm, right? And carrying on. Just keep doing what you're doing every day. It's going to work out for all of us. I promise you. Just keep your head down and keep at it. And so, where there's change in our industry, there is also opportunity, or at least I feel that way. And it's the agents who take advantage of those opportunities that will thrive. So, Margie, we often find ourselves talking about what scares us, to mention your last point, about these changes coming our way, but we never seem to talk about what excites us about it, because there are some avenues for new opportunities here. So there is room to grow and try some new things. So what excites you about our industry moving forward into this new territory, if anything?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I like to listen to Jared James. We were talking about this before. He's one of my favorite podcasts, along with this guy named Jason. I don't know if you know him. Jared has something that I've adopted that he says, it's always the market is always amateurs versus the pros. It's not the seller market, the buyer market. It's amateurs versus the pros. And amateurs, I always tell my agents, the word amateurs does not equal new licensee. You can be you can be a new licensee and be a pro because you show up every day, you're practicing, you're becoming 1% better every day. And the pros, you can be a pro, a vet agent with many years under your belt and, all the wisdom that there is in our real estate world, or you could be 30 years into it and really be in the amateur category, right? So the pros are the ones that are getting up, doing the work every day. You're seeing the success on the outside, right? But you're not seeing them listening to podcasts, doing the study, joining their local boards, like you were just saying, being on a panel, or just showing up for that in your trainings. So when that happens and that skill set starts to develop, well, therein lies the gold, right? There's the new opportunities. There's a new way of doing things, and maybe a better way. And that's where things blossom. And, I think that's really where the sweet spot is. Not what's going to happen, because yes, we're going to have some bumpy roads in the next 6 months, year, but let's look 5 years down the line. What might that look like? That's exciting.
Yeah, and we don't have all the answers right now, right? We're just not going to. And people need to accept that. I know that there's a lot of agents out there, I hear, they just want answers. They just want concrete steps. We're going to be finding them out. We just don't know them right now. But I think this is an opportunity for all of us to raise our professionalism, because I think what we're heading into is a professionals market. Yes. And it's going to help us evolve in our own business, but also raise our game a little bit. I think sometimes we get by on just the market itself. And I think we're going to have to fight more, right? Yeah. And I think that's some of the pushback you hear from agents. Some agents don't want to fight more. They just want the business to come to them. Well, I'm sorry to say that things are going to be changing a little bit. And you had mentioned the amateurs, and maybe some of the amateurs get out of real estate altogether. Well, what does that mean? Potentially more listings for us, more clients for us. So again, these are things that potentially excite me. And it also creates some space to give some new marketing techniques, maybe that we're going to find out about, more creative ways of doing certain things with our contracts. I know I'm a total real estate nerd for saying that, but that kind of excites me, right? Like, what are we going to be trying in the future? What's a new kind of avenue in order to get that client that home that they really want, right? Yeah. How can I structure this contract to get them business? And I know there's fellow nerds out there who know what I'm saying. So much of keeping calm today may be as simple as blocking out the time on our schedules to learn more about these new rules, to have the time to absorb changes to our contracts and agreements, or simply making the time to take a day off to rejuvenate ourselves amidst the stress that we feel with everything going on. So Margie, why is something so simple as time blocking effectively a technique we should focus on right now in our business?
I think it's one of the hardest things agents focus on because are we ever really off the clock? And we all know that we should, but we're all, we have to pick up that phone or the next person's going to do that. There's a few different time management techniques that I've been trying to study, let's say that, just to kind of better service my agents, because I don't think it's a one size fits all. And our tasks are, drastically different throughout the day. So we often hear about time blocking, right? If you're doing any type of lead gen training, time block out your time first thing in the morning, your hour of power, whatever that looks like. But then there's other things too, and we hear of such things as eat the frog, right? Do the most challenging task first, the one that you're really dreading. Take care of that, get that off your plate, and then the rest of the day will flow. There's one called the Pomodoro, and have you ever heard of that, the Pomodoro?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's kind of funny. It's this guy, Francesco Cirillo, who developed the system when he was in college back in the late 80s, and he was studying for an exam. And he just couldn't concentrate. No matter how he tried, he couldn't concentrate. And he got himself so frustrated that he went into the kitchen and he got himself like a little kitchen timer, like a cooking timer, and it was in the shape of a tomato. And he just set it for 2 minutes. And he's like, I'm just going to focus on this page for like 2 minutes. If I can get through 2 minutes, I'm going to give myself a 30-second break. And that eventually developed, and he kept practicing and practicing till he made it to an hour. And then he said, I really have something here. And in further research, he found that 25 minutes of focused attention on a task was really the sweet spot. So if you set your timer for 25 minutes, then you give yourself a 5-minute break, get up, walk around, do whatever, and then you can go back in again for another 25. But then every 25 minutes after that, you give yourself a bit of a longer break. So maybe it's 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and so on. And that really helps people who struggle with concentration. So that's kind of a good technique for that. There's a 1-3-5 rule, and that's for a person with different tasks. And I think of realtors because many of our tasks are different, and many of our tasks need different aspects from us. So, for example, if you're doing a contract, you need to be focused. You need to pay attention. Your spelling. What do I want to say in the additional contractual provisions? Do I have everything? So there's that, as opposed to maybe making a video where your more creative juices need to flow and you need to be more focused on that. So the 1-3-5 rule says, do your one big task first. So if you're going out on that huge listing appointment and you really need to find comps and you need to hunker down and just really concentrate on the MLS and put your presentation together, that requires significant attention. So that's your number one. Then the number 3, that's medium-sized tasks. So they are important, but maybe they're not overly demanding. Okay, so you pick 3 to do that day. And then the 5 is 5 small tasks, and they're easy. They're answering emails, they're returning phone calls, maybe they're, giving feedback on showing time, maybe they're organizing and cleaning out your desk. So you have 1, 3, 5, and maybe that takes up your day. And then you go home and you relax and you have time to yourself. And whatever's left over, you do your 1-3-5 the next day. But whichever you choose or whatever works, I think most importantly, the bottom line is breaking down your to-do list into categories. When you do that, you create a clear framework for prioritizing and managing your tasks that day, and you don't get overwhelmed. And maybe in that 3 section, those medium tasks or whatever time block or time management system you choose, put in time for buyer agency. You will feel so empowered. Maybe it means I'm going to go get a piece of pizza with, one of the agents, and we're going to discuss what this looks like. Maybe instead of reading 5 pages of a new buyer agency agreement, we just concentrate on 1 paragraph and concentrate on it for the whole week. And then so on and so on and so on. Well, guess what? In a few months, who's the amateur and who's the pro?
That is such a great point. And I was thinking as you were saying all this, like, yeah, your medium-sized steps, like let's take a bite-sized portion of some of the changes that are coming and just study that and then move on, right? And so I think it's as simple as that. So I feel like I'm going to totally rip off the 135 method because I was talking to an agent yesterday, and I said I want to write a book because I've been listening to a lot of self-improvement stuff. So I finally broke down and got Audible.
Oh,
So
yes.
I am constantly listening to self-improvement books as you and I talked about our driving time, right? When we
Yes.
camera earlier, that's all I do is listen to self-improvement stuff now. And so I wanted to write a book because what I focus on is the big three every day. I call it the big three. What are my big three things that I need to accomplish today? And then my big three things for the week. And then my big three long-term goals. So I kind of have that 135, but mine's like 333 kind of thing.
Whatever works.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so I'm totally ripping off that concept and branding it as my own. But
Definitely,
yeah,
please.
yeah. So I think there's some great stuff in there, and I think time blocking is bar none the one thing that I struggle with constantly. And I know agents out there listening are the same way because a lot of us are the same type of personality.
Mhm.
And we get bogged down with the day to day. We get distracted by this. We're doing this and then get pulled away for this. I think it is vitally important, especially during this time period, to set aside that time to study some of these changes and do what you need to do to work on your, for example, your buyer presentation, right?
Yes.
Focus on those important tasks to get them done so you're going to be ready for those changes in the near future. So I wanted to talk about, and you had kind of referenced this earlier, and we did not coordinate on this, I promise this, but you kind of used the same analogy that even though we are about to sail, set sail for uncharted waters, we are not sailing alone, right?
Right.
We are all in this boat together. And so the last thing I wanted to touch upon is, Margie, what kind of things can we do together in our offices to be prepared for those changes ahead?
Show up. Really show up. Um, there was a time I remember when I'm really 110 in real estate, in real estate age, but I remember when I first got my license as an agent, and the office was packed. There was no place to sit, and I wouldn't even dare ask. I wasn't worthy of a chair, But now the canvas of our offices are just so completely different after COVID. Not too many people come in unless they're dropping off paperwork, or they have to maybe do a CMA or do some kind of paperwork, or go to a meeting, a training. Come into the office. Yes, now we are more digital, we're more plug and play, and more focused time is probably at your home office or wherever you are, your mobile. But coming in for collaboration, coming in for networking, and coming in for training and coaching is vital. It is absolutely vital. So I would just make the decision to do it. There is no in between. And then once you're committed to that, when you come into first of all, you have sales meetings. You might have virtual meetings or trainings. Now with buyer agency, it's everywhere. And again, you are lean on the strength of our company in that if you missed a meeting here, if you missed a training in your own office, go to the next office over or talk to your sales manager on what that might look like. There's plenty here for you. You do not have to reinvent yourself in any way. We have our own legal department. We have our own education department. It's already formed for you. You just have to make the decision to commit to it and practice it. And the other thing is, we're all leaders. If you're a Berkshire Hathaway agent, then you're a quality agent. You really are. And everyone has leadership skills. You don't have to run the office to lead something. So maybe talk to your manager about, doing some sort of lunch and learn, maybe just a collaboration. These are my questions. Here's 5 agents. We all have the same concerns about this, or that, or we really would like to focus on, can you show us the Moxie presentation again? Or can we practice that? Or who in maybe you are the person that really is a tech person and can put together a really nice presentation. Show that, share your skill sets. That's what it's about. building your skill sets for the future. And those are all the opportunities that come about with change. So not only are we growing as an industry, but we're growing individually and sharing that out.
I think you make a great point about the leadership. I know as a former manager, I'm sure you feel this way. We love when agents take the reins on certain things, right?
Absolutely.
If you wanted to put together a panel event with agents in your own office to talk about these changes, what are you doing to prepare? That would be something right there, a brainstorming group. If there's 3 or 4 of you that kind of connect and you do business a certain way, get the creative juices flowing, have a brainstorming session about what you plan on doing with the changes ahead. We can talk about it. You had mentioned the backing of Berkshire Hathaway, and absolutely. But I look at it as we can do scripting together. We can practice our wording for our buyer consultation. What are we going to work on in terms of getting some new language down to talk about commissions, to talk about the different changes that are upon us. So take advantage of the fact you had mentioned, post-COVID, every office is the same. We would love it if more people came into the office, but that world kind of got left when COVID came on board. But you had mentioned showing up. Showing up is so important.
Yes.
And that's why even if I have 0 to do in a day, even though that's never the case, but if I had 0 to do in a day, I would still come into the office because that allows me to talk to my colleagues, to kind of learn through osmosis. And I feel like that's a lot of what's missing right now in real estate. Do you agree with that?
1,000%. The old adage about the new licensee comes into the office and all of a sudden they've got, their first sale and their first listing, and it's been like 30 or 60 days. And then the vet agents are like, oh, beginner's luck. Well, they had an open mind. Right? They had that beginner's mindset. Their mind was empty. So they were open to everything. They didn't know what to fear. They didn't know that they were supposed to be, nervous as anything, asking for this or, suggesting that home or whatever. And I think if we go back to that beginner's mind where there are so many possibilities and opportunities from this, where sometimes maybe an expert's mind, there's only a few possibilities. Right? Because we've been jaded. So going back to that open mindset, working past the fear, and definitely collaboration on all levels.
Well, you don't know what you don't know when you're beginning, right? And sometimes that works to your advantage. And also, I do think that the real estate gods, we all talk about the real estate gods. Real estate gods reward those that actually put in the work and put in the time. And I feel like there's a balancing act that takes place in our career. Like if you keep doing the right things, everybody goes through peaks and valleys. But if you keep doing the right things, the real estate gods reward you for your hard work. And the same thing goes for showing up every day. And so I feel like there's a lot of that. So, okay, last question to you. I read something very interesting in your Fox Roach bio. All right. So I snooped on you, as I always do for all my guests here. So in 2005, you helped establish the Vineland Downtown Farmers Market. And I think your husband is a fourth generation farmer.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so that's amazing. All right. So I personally think that's super cool that you helped establish this farmers market. So since you offer all kinds of fresh produce at your farmers market, I have a farming produce trivia question for you.
Oh my goodness, I'm probably going to.
Are you ready? Okay. Are you ready for this question?
Yes.
All right. So the root vegetable known as rutabaga is a hybrid combination of what 2 more commonly known vegetables?
Is this multiple choice?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Gosh darn it. I can't even phone a friend. I can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is not Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Okay, wait. Rutabaga. I know this. I'm going to say turnip and a beet.
You were so close. I can't believe you got turnip. Turnip is correct.
Okay.
And wild cabbage.
Darn.
So I always wondered what a rutabaga was. So I had to look that up.
But do you know what kohlrabi is?
I have no idea. You're
Okay.
talking to the
Look
wrong.
up kohlrabi. That's a good one.
What's kohlrabi? I've never heard of.
Kohlrabi is also a root vegetable. It's a spicy rooted vegetable. Sometimes they'll shred it into like a cabbage at like fancy restaurants. All your foodies will know kohlrabi.
Interesting. All
Yeah.
right. I mean, I'm a big chard guy.
Oh yeah, rainbow chard.
Yeah, rainbow chard. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
We always get that at our local farmers market. Have you ever tried a quince, by the way?
No,
I
do
don't,
tell.
I think one of my goals in life is to actually eat a quince. I don't I don't know. I don't know what
Okay.
it's going to taste like, but foods that start with the letter Q.
Yes.
And then lastly, I wanted to ask you. So my sister-in-law lived in the Philippines for a long time. And over there, they have a delicacy called durian. Have you ever heard of durian?
No.
So apparently, this is a fruit that is highly coveted, that has a horrible smell to it, and tastes somewhere in between, I've been told, like onions and like an ashtray.
Eek.
People, and apparently people love it in the Philippines. So I don't know if you've ever tried that, but I don't
No.
know if I have an urge to try that. So I'm just
Yeah.
kind of
Please
putting.
do a live video.
So is the farmers market still happening?
Actually, we have a Vineland Downtown Improvement District down Landis Avenue. So they actually took that over, and it grew into an indoor space, and it developed quite nicely for our downtown market, and everyone. Yeah,
That's really
really
cool.
caught me off guard. You have me a little stumped
That was the
there.
goal. I do want to catch you off guard with something before we get. So anyway, Margie, this was great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun.
Oh my gosh, the
And
best. So
I'm
much
sorry
fun.
for
Thank
for
you.
asking you about a rutabaga
Oh
at
no, I'm all for that. I'm all for self-embarrassment.
Well, I hope to catch up with you soon. Thank you again for doing this. We appreciate all your insights, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Jason.
That was the conversation with Margie Venturi. Here are a few takeaways I have in talking with Margie. Number one, I'm going to start off with the most important point, I think, from talking with Margie, and that is that we are all in this together. I know that there is a lot of anxiety out there right now. I know that the proposed changes are going to force us to shift the way that we do things in our business. And I get that there is a fear factor out there with that, but we are all in the same position. And you can say whatever you like about realtors, but we are a resourceful group, and we will find a way forward. We will find some new best practices. We will find some creative solutions to what we're doing out there and how we can continue to thrive amidst the changes that we're facing in our industry. Which leads me to my next point, that even though things are changing, the fundamentals of what we do remain the same. And that means the same things that made you a good realtor, to give your clients the best service possible, to increase your knowledge base, to work on your listing presentation, to work on your buyer presentation, to work on your knowledge of the agreement of sale. All that is staying the same. But what we need to do is focus on doing more of that. Focus on becoming even more professional. Focus on maybe taking a continuing education course. Focus on getting an accreditation, getting your broker's license. That's what we should focus on, is increasing our professionalism to make ourselves better realtors and to be able to adapt to any changes that may be coming our way. Last but not least, I want to go back to the beginning of the podcast where we talked about your mindset. And so much of life in general is about how you perceive it and how you face challenges and how you move forward and how you continue to keep that positive attitude despite what may be happening around you. And sometimes, just like we may reassess how our year is going. We may work on our business plan, say halfway through the year, and see how we're kind of shaping up to where we thought we would be. I think we also have to do a check on our mindset moving forward, because we hear so much happening out there. We hear all these reactions from different agents in our industry, in our company. Focus on you. Focus on keeping your positive mindset and recheck where you are mentally right now, because there's going to be changes. It's okay. And I think the overarching theme of this episode in general is we're going to be okay. And so I just want to make sure that I mention that to you. Keep a positive attitude out there. It has so much to do with what happens to us. And if you can control the things that you can control, you're going to be fine. Well, that's it for the podcast this week. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest. And as always, if you want to hear a topic that we haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to the podcast yet or left us a review, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.